What was so important? You flew up here just to check out things for a screenplay adaptation. I didn't say anything then because I could feel this terrible wind coming and I knew it would blow me away. That's why I want to do Buttercup's baby, he said. Get things right this time. I was dead in the water. I stood, thanked him for his time, started out, devastated. I'm really sorry, he said. I made a smile. Not the easiest thing for me to pull off at that moment, but I liked King, didn't want him, of all people, to see me fall apart. He called after me. Bill, wait. I just had an idea. Listen, I'll do the abridgment, and you can do the screenplay. I'll make that a deal breaker in my contract. King was trying to be helpful, I understood that, but right there in the airport, I told him about my dad reading to me and Jason not liking it, and me realizing how I had only been read the good parts, and now Jason was me, and he had this kid, Willie, this wonderful child named after me, and Willie wanted me to read it to him, and none of this abridgment business would have happened if I hadn't started it. And what would he do if he ever lost it? His power, storytelling, as I'd lost mine. And how would he like to spend the rest of his life writing perfect parts for perfectly horrible people who happen to be movie stars this week, with all that power? And I was what I most didn't want to ever be, humiliated. So I left him there, forcing myself not to run out the door. Gone. The plane back to New York left in 3 hours, and I grabbed a cab, hid in Bangor till it was time, cabbed back to the airport. Late. Weather problems. I sat on a bench in the airport, leaned back, closed my eyes, until King asked, "You had to come all the way to Maine to have a nervous breakdown?" He was sitting alongside me. "You did make one good point, and I've thought a lot about it. None of this abridgment business would have happened except your dad kept skipping stuff. So, in a way, you're very much right. It is your baby. You began it." Pause. Then he said it. "Try the first chapter." He could tell from my expression that I didn't quite understand what he meant. I guess I was like Kathy talking to Rob. "Look, this is the 25th anniversary year of The Princess Bride, right? Your version." It was. "Well, probably your publisher will want to do something, maybe reprint it in hardcover." I nodded. We'd already talked about that. "Well, abridge the first chapter of Buttercup's baby. Include it if you want. You probably ought to write an introduction to the chapter, explaining why you're not doing the whole book. I'll call the Shoggs, tell them my decision. They won't like it, but they'll go along. They've been wanting to be in business with me for years. Florine's rights to my stuff are coming due in the next couple of years." For a moment then he hesitated, and I wondered if he was changing his mind. I just waited, hoping not. Next he shook his head. And there was a look on his face that might have said, "Am I nuts to do this?" And then these wonderful words. "Bill, I expect you to really try this time." "I'll research the hell out of it," I told him. And have I ever? "But what happens after I publish the chapter?" "Let's go one step at a time," he answered. "You write it, I'll read it. Morgenstern's public will read it. I'll send a bunch of copies to all my cousins in Florin, see what they think." He stood, looked at me. "I guess the most important thing is really Morgenstern. He was a master, and it would be nice if we could please him, don't you think?" "That would be best of all," I said. "God's truth." We shook hands, said goodbye. He started away, glanced back. "You haven't read Buttercup's Baby yet, have you?" "Not yet. It's a pretty amazing story." "What are you saying? That even I can't screw it up?" "You got that right," Stephen King said, and he smiled. I left for Florin immediately. I didn't get to Florin immediately, of course. Florinair's scheduling geniuses saw to that. I took the Air France night flight to Brussels, where you connect with Inter-Italia, which lets you out in Gilder, and then just a short hop to Florin City. I'd made out a list of places to see. Royalty School, obviously, because King put such an emphasis on it. The Cliffs of Insanity. I phoned ahead and made a booking. The place is insane with visitors now. The forest where the Battle of the Trees took place, and on and on. King had given me a list of friends and scholars who he thought might prove helpful. One wonderful cousin ran the best restaurant in Florin, a blessing. Because Florin, as you may know, is the root vegetable capital of Europe. Good for their farmers, but rutabaga is their national dish, and you can get sick of it pretty fast unless a skillful cook is around. It was odd, those first days, looking at real places that I thought were made up when I was a kid. I was worried that they might not live up to my fantasies. Some of them didn't. Most of them did. The Thieves' Quarter, where Fezzik was reunited with Inigo, I saw that. And the room where Inigo finally killed Count Rugen. It's on the castle tour. Buttercup's farm has been kept pretty much intact. But what can I tell you? It's a farm. And of course the fire swamp is still as deadly as ever. No one's allowed in. But I did see the spot not that far away where local scholars believe that Buttercup and Wesley held each other after she pushed him off the cliff. It's where the reunion scene took place, and let me tell you, it was strange, me standing there looking at that patch of ground. You still can't get to One Tree Island by boat because of the surrounding whirlpool, so I rented a helicopter and wandered. One Tree is where they went to get their strength back. It's where Buttercup and Wesley first made love, where poor Waverly was born. Probably I shouldn't call her poor Waverly. She had a great time for a while, parents who loved her, the world's greatest fencer as her guard, the world's strongest man as her babysitter. Can't ask for a whole lot more. Of course, everything changed with the kidnapping, but I better shut up now before I get ahead of the story. Foreshadowing. That's the end of the introduction to the chapter. That's 2 paragraphs of a whole lot of foreshadow there. Which I like. I like that it's, it's not just a let me talk about this thing. There's also like, let me make you interested to keep reading. So I think that's good. And yeah, I think there's nothing in here that's sort of like that Stephen King wouldn't want written about him, even if it's false. Like, there's nothing that's like bad for his character or anything. So it kind of sets him up a little bit to be like, you sort of want him to be the bad guy, but also he's like, from the first thing that he says to him is like, she lied to me, or whatever. I lost it, but anyway, yeah, I do wonder how often he's asked about his family in Florin. Well, I think not everybody, if anybody who read the book before that was added wouldn't think to ask Stephen King about it, unless they then went and got a different version of the book and reread it. At which point I think they would sort of be in on the joke. Maybe. But yeah, I bet he probably does get at least a couple of questions along those lines, because there's a whole Reddit thread that I found while I was looking for something else that was basically somebody's trying to find the unabridged version of Princess Bride because they refuse to read abridged books. And so they were like, I have to find the Morgenstern. Somebody needs to point me in the right direction. And there's this whole thread of people trying to convince this person that Morgenstern doesn't exist. And so I feel like there's probably still people who, like, the lines are so blurred that, yeah, Stephen King probably has Florin relatives. Because I think William Goldman did a really good job of, like, weaving this illusionary story around the whole rest of it. And I think that's, like, pretty solidly done. If there are still people today who are like, I gotta find the original, I think that's like a credit to how thoroughly immersive it was, and still is. Get a drink. I've seen him described as a massive troll, and that's not entirely inaccurate. William Goldman or Stephen King? I'm guessing you're talking about William Goldman? Yeah, okay. I mean, I've never met him, so I'm not gonna pass that judgment, but I can see, like, just the way that, like, the amount of illusion that's created. I feel like it could easily open the doors for, like, that sort of being a part of, not a part of a personality, but, like, you know, like, making it easy to do that in other areas of your life. None of them suggested calling a bookstore where they thought they saw the Morgenstern. You mean on the Reddit thread? I think the thing was that they went to Reddit because they called a bunch of bookstores, and the bookstores were like, no, we don't have that. And so they were like, someone needs to help me find this book. Which I guess, yeah, that is sort of trollish if you're if you're writing a book that's, like, so immersive that you're sending people down on this wild goose chase to find a book that doesn't exist, or to write letters to publishing companies and put the actual address into your book so that people will send letters to the publisher. I guess that could be somewhat trollish behavior, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know him personally, so I won't judge it completely, but I will give a nod to, like, okay, I could see maybe that behavior being considered that way. Chambers would approve. Not hating on him for it. Yeah, I mean, it's aside from giving away a real address, I think maybe, like, the whole thing of creating this illusion of an imaginary book, it's kind of like the wild goose chase is the side effect. It's the actual intended purpose is to create this immersive story. It's not like he's trying to create this book that people are going to want to read that doesn't exist, and so he's going to send them on this wild goose chase. It's just kind of a side effect of how the story works. No? No on what? He fabricated his own family members. I think he was probably trying to keep his real family members out of the limelight. At least that would be the motivation that I would have if I was writing something like this. I would not want to write my actual family members. Especially, like, I don't know how old. Every author does that. They do it by not talking about them at all. Yeah, that is probably what I would do, is not talk about them at all, but yeah, I don't know. I think, at least for me, I think I would probably be more protective if I had two young daughters while I was trying to write something. If I threw that trail off by fabricating a fake family member, I don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't know if I would do that or not, but I definitely would try to find ways of not bringing my family into the limelight. Maybe this is what made sense for him. I think the entire could be viewed as satire, the story and all. I mean, I definitely think it's definitely taking a little bit of a jab at like the writing process, especially with being like, I wrote this thing and now I'm involved in 13 different lawsuits, but between the same person. Like, why are they, like, there's definitely something satirical about like the publishing process that he's going for. Does that mean that he needs to bring fake family members in? I don't know. I'm not gonna say that he's. I'm not gonna stand up and defend him because I don't know his intentions. But also, I recognize that not every author is perfect. So maybe it's something that he wouldn't do if he had the chance to go back and do it over again. I don't know. But with whatever it is, I definitely feel like it is like a tightly woven fabric of this story that he's created. I'm not saying that being a troll is a bad thing either. Yeah. I don't know exactly the definition of troll because I used it once in a not intending that it's a bad thing. I used it not quite as a compliment, but like, oh, we're all trolls here, kind of this like way of saying things. And someone was like, well, that's not what troll means. So now I don't know. Is it inherently a bad thing to be a troll? I don't think so. I saw that chat did something, but I lost the chat page. Generally, it means someone bullies goats that are trying to get to the other side of the bridge. Yes. In slang, a troll is a person who posts deliberately offensive or provocative messages online or who performs similar behaviors in real life. So you're deliberately being offensive. The methods and motivations of trolls can range from benign to sadistic. Well, but that's a little bit of a contradictory definition because if it can range from being benign to sadistic, how do you benignly say something offensive or provocative? That's not benign at all. I take issue with the definition, but I don't know what the actual definition is, so we'll leave it at that. Hi there. Thanks for joining our book club. If you'd like to join the conversation, I would love it if you would leave us a comment. And if you'd like to see more, check out the playlist.